You think you can just take my stuff and get away with it?
Stop it, both anything. This is not how we solve problems.
He's the lie! He never share anything.
Two brothers had everything wealth could offer, but their hearts were full of hate, and what they were about to lose would change them forever. And through this story, you will discover why unity is more powerful than wealth. In a peaceful village that was known for its beauty and quiet life, there stood a very large and beautiful house that everyone admired whenever they passed by. And this house belonged to a very rich family that had worked hard for many years to build their wealth, owning many buildings, cars, and businesses that brought them respect from everyone around them. Inside this great house lived twin brothers who were born on the same day, grew up together, ate from the same kitchen, and slept under the same roof. Yet their hearts were far apart from each other. From the time they were still very young, the twins always found a reason to disagree, even over the smallest things that other children would easily laugh about and forget, because while one wanted something done in a certain way, the other would strongly refuse and insist on doing the opposite. And instead of talking peacefully, they would argue loudly until their voices filled the whole house with anger and bitterness. As they continued to grow older, their hatred for each other did not reduce, but instead grew stronger, like a fire that kept spreading, making it impossible for them to sit together, share a meal, or even greet each other kindly. Their parents, who loved them deeply and had always dreamed that their sons would grow up to manage the family's wealth together, tried everything they could to bring peace between them, speaking to them gently, advising them with wisdom, and even warning them about the dangers of hatred. But no matter how much they tried, the twins refused to listen and continued to behave like strangers living in the same house. Even when they were given equal things, one would still complain that the other had received something better, and this made them guard everything they owned as if they were enemies competing against each other. As time went on, the large and beautiful house that was once filled with laughter slowly became a place where silence and tension lived side by side because the twins could not stand each other, and every corner of the house seemed to carry the weight of their constant disagreement, leaving their parents worried and heartbroken as they watched their sons drift further apart each day. As the days continued to pass in the large house, the small arguments between the twin brothers slowly grew into serious fights that could no longer be ignored because what once started as simple disagreements over little things had now become loud quarrels that shook the peace of the entire home and made everyone feel uncomfortable. The workers in the house began to whisper among themselves, and visitors no longer felt free to stay for long, because the tension between the twins could be felt the moment anyone stepped inside. The twins stopped doing anything together completely, and even when their parents tried to bring them to sit in the same place and talk, they would turn their faces away from each other, refusing to listen or understand, as if their hearts had been closed tightly against any form of peace. If one brother entered a room, the other would quickly leave, and if they were forced to stay in the same place, they would remain silent but filled with anger, each believing that he was right and the other was wrong. Their parents became deeply worried because they could see that this was no longer just childish behavior, but something that was growing into a serious problem that could destroy their family. So they began to try different ways to bring the twins together, sometimes speaking kindly and reminding them of how they once played together as children, and other times becoming strict and warning them about the future if they continued on this path. They even invited respected elders from the village, hoping that wise words from outside the home would touch the hearts of the brothers and change them. However, no matter how many times advice was given or how many efforts were made, the twins refused to change their ways because each one was too proud to take the first step toward peace, and their stubbornness became like a strong wall that no one could break through. Instead of improving, their relationship grew worse, and they began to compete in everything, trying to outdo each other in ways that brought more harm than good. The once joyful home was now slowly losing its warmth, and the sound of laughter that used to fill the air was replaced with silence, worry, and the echo of unresolved anger as their parents watched helplessly, hoping that one day something would happen to open their sons' hearts before it was too late. As the hatred between the twin brothers continued to grow stronger, it reached a point where they could no longer bear to share anything at all, and what used to be one happy home slowly turned into a place of division where everything had to be separated as if two different families were living under the same roof. The twins began to divide the house into two parts, each choosing where he would stay, and they made it clear that no one should cross into the other side without permission, as if they were strangers who had nothing in common. They stopped eating from the same kitchen and instead demanded that their food be prepared separately, with each one believing that the other did not deserve to share in what belonged to him, and even simple things like chairs, utensils, and space became matters of argument and ownership. If one brother bought something new, the other would refuse to touch it, not because he did not need it, but because his heart was filled with pride and anger that would not allow him to accept anything connected to his brother. As time went on, their refusal to work together began to affect more than just the house, because their family was known for its wealth and many businesses, and these businesses needed unity, understanding, and cooperation to continue growing. But the twins could not agree on anything. When decisions needed to be made, they argued instead of discussing, and when work needed to be done, they refused to support each other, each trying to prove that he could succeed alone without the help of the other. Because of this, the family businesses slowly began to suffer, and what was once strong and successful started to weaken as workers became confused about whose instructions to follow, and important opportunities were lost because the brothers could not come together to make the right choices. People in the village began to notice that something was wrong, and whispers started to spread about how a once united and respected family was now falling apart because of the conflict between the twins. Their parents watched all of this with heavy hearts because they could see that the problem was no longer just about hatred between two brothers, but something that was now destroying everything they had worked so hard to build, and no matter how much they tried to fix it, the twins remained blind to the damage they were causing, holding tightly to their pride while everything around them slowly slipped away. As the division between the twin brothers continued to destroy their home and everything their family had built, a day came when a respected old elder from the village decided to visit them, because he had heard many troubling stories about how the once peaceful house had turned into a place of conflict and pride. When he arrived, he was welcomed by their tired and worried parents, who explained everything that had been happening, hoping that his wisdom could succeed where all their efforts had failed. The elder did not rush to speak or judge anyone, but instead asked that both brothers be called to sit before him, and although they were reluctant and unwilling, they obeyed out of respect for his age and position. When they sat down, they did not look at each other, and the silence between them spoke louder than words, showing just how deep their hatred had grown. The elder looked at them calmly, and then told them a simple story about two strong sticks that could easily be broken when they were separated. But when tied together, no one could break them, no matter how hard they tried. And as he spoke, he gently tied two sticks together and handed them to the brothers, asking them to try and break them. Each one tried with all his strength, but they could not break the sticks, and slowly they began to understand the message behind the elder's words. He then explained to them that their strength as a family did not come from their wealth, their buildings, or their businesses, but from their unity, and that by choosing to fight each other, they were slowly destroying not only their future, but also the hard work and dreams of their parents. He reminded them that pride can make a person feel strong for a moment, but in the end, it leaves them alone and empty, while unity builds something that lasts for generations. For the first time in many years, the brothers became quiet, not because of anger, but because they were thinking deeply about everything that had happened, and they began to see clearly the damage they had caused, not only to each other, but to their family and the people who depended on them. Their hearts slowly softened, and without being forced, they turned to look at each other, realizing how far they had drifted apart. With heavy hearts and regret, they finally spoke, admitting their mistakes and asking each other for forgiveness. And in that moment, the wall that had stood between them for so long began to fall, replaced by understanding and a new desire to rebuild what they had broken. Their parents watched with tears of joy as their sons embraced, bringing back the peace that had been lost for so long. From that day on, the twins chose unity over pride, working together to restore their family, rebuild their businesses, and bring back the respect they once had, and their story became a powerful lesson in the village, reminding everyone that no matter how great wealth may be, it can never stand strong without love, unity, and understanding. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to J African Tales for more powerful stories that teach, inspire, and stay with you long after they end. See you in the next story.